Let me tell you something. You were not born believing. No child comes into this world carrying conclusions. Have you watched a child? A small child, maybe 6 months old, 1 year old. The child simply looks. The eyes are empty of knowledge, full of wonder. The child does not know what a tree is, what a flower is, what a mother is. The child simply sees. But seeing was slowly replaced. And this replacement is so clever, so subtle, that you never noticed when it happened. One day you were seeing, the next day you were believing, and you think you are still seeing. This is the trick. Before you could ask, answers were given. Before you could doubt, certainty was handed to you. Before your intelligence had time to awaken, belief stepped in and occupied the space. I have watched thousands of people come to me, and they all come with the same question, though they phrase it differently. They say, "Osho, I am seeking truth." But when I look into their eyes, I see they are not seeking truth. They are seeking confirmation of what they already believe. You see the difference? Truth seeking means you have no conclusion. Belief seeking means you want your conclusion validated. And belief did not arrive as a prison. It arrived as protection. Your parents loved you. I am not saying they were your enemies. No. They loved you so much that they wanted to protect you from all the dangers of life. And life is dangerous when you don't know. So they said, "Believe this. This will keep you safe." This is why belief feels safe. It promises clarity. It promises belonging. It promises meaning in a world that feels overwhelming. But what belief actually does, this is far more subtle. Belief does not give you truth. Belief gives you relief from uncertainty. And the human mind is addicted to relief. From the very beginning, you were rewarded for agreement. I will tell you a story. Once, a man brought his 5-year-old son to me. The father was very proud. He said, "Osho, my son is very intelligent. He has memorized the entire Bhagavad Gita." I looked at the boy. I asked him, "Do you understand what Krishna is saying?" The boy looked at his father. You see, he didn't look inside himself for the answer. He looked at his father. This is belief. The father nodded, and the boy said, "Yes, Osho, I understand everything." I said, "Good. Then tell me, what does Krishna mean when he says you are not the body?" The boy recited a verse perfectly, word for word, Sanskrit pronunciation, everything correct. But his eyes were dead. There was no understanding, only memory. I told the father, "You have created a parrot, not a human being. And parrots are cheaper. You can buy them in the market. Why waste a human being?" The father was offended. He left. But you see what happened? The father was rewarded when the boy agreed, when the boy repeated, when the boy obeyed. When you agreed, you were loved. When you obeyed, you were protected. When you accepted what was given, life felt easier. So belief became survival, not because it was true, but because it worked. This is the hidden origin of belief. Fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of being alone. Fear of being rejected. Fear of not knowing. Nobody wants to say, I don't know. It feels like a wound to the ego. So you pretend, you believe, and slowly the pretense becomes your reality. Belief is not courage. Belief is the avoidance of doubt. And doubt is dangerous to society. A doubting child cannot be easily controlled. A doubting adult cannot be easily predicted. A doubting human being becomes unpredictable. And society hates the unpredictable. Society wants to know, if I push this button, this response will come. You are turned into a machine. Stimulus, response. Stimulus, response. Pavlov did it with dogs. Society has done it with you. But nobody complains because the conditioning is so comfortable. You have a cage, but the cage is golden. You have chains, but the chains are made of flowers. So you think you are free. So belief is taught early, not violently, gently, through stories, through rewards, through punishments, through love that is conditional. Have you noticed? Your parents said they loved you unconditionally. But watch closely. When you were obedient, love flowed. When you were rebellious, love was withdrawn. They didn't beat you. Modern parents are too sophisticated for that. They simply became cold, silent, disappointed. And that coldness is worse than any beating. A child can survive a beating, but a child cannot survive the withdrawal of love. So the child learns, if I want love, I must believe what they believe. Soon, belief becomes your inner voice, and because it speaks in your own language, you no longer recognize it as borrowed. You call it my thinking. You call it my values. You call it my truth. But nothing inside belief is truly yours. It is inherited. Parents pass belief to children not because they want to imprison them, but because they themselves are imprisoned. One prisoner teaching another prisoner how to be comfortable in prison. This is what you call education. Teachers pass belief because education was never designed to awaken intelligence, only to standardize it. Have you seen a school, a factory for manufacturing similar minds? Everyone must know the same answers. Everyone must think the same thoughts. And if someone thinks differently, he is punished, failed, called stupid. But the so-called stupid child might be the only intelligent one in the class because he is not yet domesticated. He still asks, why? And the teacher says, don't ask why, just memorize. Religion passes belief because belief preserves authority better than awareness ever could. Every religion says, believe. No religion says, experiment and see for yourself. Jesus says, believe in me and you will be saved. Buddha says something entirely different. Buddha says, don't believe in me. Experiment with what I am saying. If it works, use it. If it doesn't work, throw it away. Do you see the difference? Jesus creates believers. Buddha creates scientists of the inner world. But even Buddha's followers turned him into a belief system. The moment the master dies, the priests arrive. And priests are the greatest enemies of truth, because priests need believers, not seekers. A seeker is dangerous, a believer is profitable, and society rewards belief because belief produces obedience. This is not a conspiracy, it is unconscious repetition, blindness passed on by the blind. Your parents were blind, their parents were blind. The whole chain going back thousands of years, blind people leading blind people, and everybody thinks they can see. I am reminded of a Sufi story. A man went to a master and said, "I want to see God." The master said, "First tell me, can you see yourself?" The man said, "Of course, I can see myself." The master said, "Then close your eyes and tell me, what color are your eyes?" The man closed his eyes and suddenly realized he had never seen his own eyes. He had seen them in a mirror, yes, but that is not seeing yourself, that is seeing a reflection. The master said, "You have not seen even your own eyes, and you want to see God. First, see yourself, then everything else will be revealed." Belief is not evil, but belief is dangerous, because belief blocks seeing. The moment you believe something, inquiry stops. The moment you believe, you stop listening. The moment you believe, intelligence goes to sleep. I will tell you another story. A Christian missionary came to me once. He wanted to convince me about Jesus. Very sincere man, very devoted. He quoted the Bible for 2 hours. When he finished, I said, "Have you read the Upanishads?" He said, "No." "Have you read the Tao Te Ching?" "No." "Have you read the Buddhist sutras?" "No, Osho. Why should I? I have found the truth in Jesus." You see, he had stopped looking. At the age of 18, he became a Christian, and his whole life became a closed circle. He was 25 when he came to me, 7 years of spiritual blindness, and he thought he had found truth. I told him, "How can you be certain Jesus is the only way if you have never explored any other way? Your certainty is not born out of clarity. Your certainty is born out of fear." He became angry. This is another sign. When belief is questioned, anger arises. Truth never makes you angry. Only belief makes you angry. Because belief is fragile, truth is not. Belief replaces curiosity with certainty, and certainty is the death of truth. Children are curious. That's why children are closer to truth than adults. A child asks, "Why is the sky blue?" And the adult says, "Because it is." The adult has killed the question with a dead answer. But if you really look into why the sky is blue, you will enter into mysteries, light, wavelengths, the nature of perception. One question can open infinite doors, but belief closes all doors. Belief says, I already know. Truth is not something you hold. Truth is something you encounter. Belief tells you what God is. Truth destroys the question of God entirely. When you encounter truth, there is no God separate from existence. The tree is God. The bird is God. You are God. Everything is divine. The question disappears, but belief keeps the question alive and gives you a dead answer. Belief tells you what love is. Truth dissolves all definitions and leaves only presence. You think you know what love is? You have read poetry, watched movies, listened to songs. But have you ever been in love without any idea of what love should be? Real love has no definition. It is wild, unpredictable, dangerous. Belief makes love safe. But safe love is not love, it is a contract. Belief tells you who you are. Truth leaves you speechless. This is why belief feels comforting and truth feels unsettling. Belief strengthens identity. Truth dissolves it. Your whole life you have been building an identity. I am a doctor. I am a father. I am a Hindu. I am successful. I am moral. These are all identities. But who are you without these labels? Truth asks this question, and the mind becomes afraid. Because without labels, the ego has nothing to hold on to. Belief gives you a position. Truth removes ground from under your feet. So the mind prefers belief, because belief keeps the structure intact. Your name, your history, your roles, your achievements, your failures. Belief makes all of this feel solid. Truth threatens collapse, and collapse is terrifying to the ego. The ego does not fear pain, it fears disappearance. I have seen people suffer for years, bad marriages, meaningless jobs, empty lives, and they continue. Why? Because suffering is familiar. Suffering doesn't threaten the ego, but meditation threatens the ego. Love threatens the ego. Truth threatens the ego. Because in meditation, in love, in truth, the ego disappears. And the ego says, better to suffer than to disappear. It's like a person drowning, but refusing to let go of the rock he is holding. He thinks the rock will save him, but the rock is pulling him down. So belief becomes a shield, even spiritual belief, especially spiritual belief. This is the most dangerous trap. People believe in enlightenment the same way they believe in success, as something to achieve, something to possess, something to add to identity. They come to me and say, Osho, I have been meditating for 10 years. When will I become enlightened? I say, never, because you want to become enlightened. And the one who wants to become is the barrier. Enlightenment is not an achievement, it is a disappearance. The ego must die, and who wants to die? So people collect spiritual beliefs instead. They read books, they attend workshops, they chant mantras, and they think they are growing. But anything added to identity strengthens the prison. Awareness subtracts. Belief accumulates. Belief says, I know. Awareness says, I see. Knowing is memory. Seeing is alive. You can believe without ever being present. You cannot see without being here. This is why belief feels effortless and seeing feels demanding. Seeing demands your total presence. You cannot see a flower while thinking about yesterday. You cannot see a person while planning tomorrow. Seeing requires you to be here, totally here. But belief allows you to remain asleep. You can believe and still be unconscious. You can believe and still be mechanical. You can believe and still be afraid. I will tell you about a man who came to me, very religious. He prayed 5 times a day, fasted, went to the temple. One day he came running to me, trembling. He said, Osho, I am going to die. The doctor said I have cancer. I said, but you believe in God, don't you? You believe in life after death? Why are you so afraid? He started crying. He said, I thought I believed, but now I see it was just words. You see? In the moment of crisis, belief collapses because it was never real. It was just a mental decoration. Belief does not free you from fear. It only gives fear a structure. Fear of hell, fear of failure, fear of meaninglessness, fear of being nobody. Belief organizes fear into a system. If I sin, I will go to hell. This is organized fear. If I don't succeed, I am worthless. This is organized fear. Truth dissolves fear by dissolving the one who fears. When you see deeply into yourself, you realize there is no solid self to protect. You are like a river, constantly flowing. How can a river be afraid? The river simply flows. Fear arises only when you think you are a static entity, a fixed self. And belief creates that fixed self. This is why belief is socially useful and truth is socially dangerous. Society does not want awakened individuals. It wants functional believers. Believers work. Believers obey. Believers consume. Believers compete. Believers fit. The whole structure of society depends on believers. Imagine if everyone suddenly woke up. No one would go to meaningless jobs. No one would buy useless products. No one would fight wars. The economy would collapse. So society is very invested in keeping you asleep. And the method is belief. The awakened do not fit. They don't fit because they cannot be manipulated. You cannot make an awakened person ambitious. You cannot make him greedy. You cannot make him afraid. What will you do with such a person? He is useless for society. Buddha became useless. He was a prince. He could have ruled, conquered, expanded the empire. But he became awakened, and then he was useless for politics, for economics, for war. His father wept. He said, I trained you to be a king, and you became a beggar. But Buddha said, I was a beggar when I was a prince. Now I am an emperor. This is why belief is taught as virtue and doubt is labeled as weakness. But doubt is the beginning of intelligence. Not cynical doubt, not intellectual doubt, existential doubt. The doubt that says, I will not accept until I see. This doubt is not against truth. It is devotion to truth. Let me make this clear. I am not teaching you to become skeptical. The skeptic has already concluded, nothing is true. That is another belief. I am teaching you to be open. Don't conclude. Don't say yes and don't say no. Just look, observe, experiment. Belief is cheap. You can believe without risking anything. A Christian believes in Jesus. What is the risk? Nothing. He goes to church on Sunday, sings a song, comes home. Life continues as before. But if Jesus had really touched him, if there had been a real encounter, not a belief, his whole life would be transformed. He would become a rebel, just like Jesus. Seeing requires courage, because when you see, the familiar dies, the familiar identity, the familiar explanations, the familiar comfort. This is why most people defend their beliefs with such violence. They are not defending truth. They are defending themselves. A belief questioned feels like a personal attack. Have you noticed? You can question someone's knowledge and they might agree, but question their belief and they become enemies. Why? Because belief has replaced being. When belief collapses, the false self trembles and fear arises. So belief is protected at all costs, even if it makes you miserable. And this is the tragedy I see every day. People come to me suffering, deeply suffering, but they are not willing to drop their beliefs. They say, Osho, I am unhappy in my marriage. I say, then why are you continuing? Because divorce is a sin. I believe in the sanctity of marriage. So they choose misery. They choose a dead relationship because belief says this is right. People would rather be miserable and certain than free and unknown. Belief offers predictable suffering. Truth offers unpredictable freedom. The mind chooses suffering because suffering is familiar. You know how to suffer. You have practiced it for years. You have become an expert. But freedom is not familiar. You don't know what will happen. The ego says, dangerous, don't risk it. Look closely. Your beliefs tell you what is right and wrong, what is acceptable, what is shameful, what is sacred, what is forbidden. And because these beliefs were installed before awareness developed, they operate automatically. You do not choose them, they choose you. And then you defend them as if they were your discoveries. This is hypnosis, not dramatic, ordinary. Hypnosis is simply unconscious repetition. You repeat what you were told. You repeat what was rewarded. You repeat what made you feel safe. And repetition becomes identity. Soon, you do not know who you are without belief. so the fear deepens. What will I be without my beliefs? This question terrifies the mind, because without belief, there is no script, no role, no certainty, only presence. And presence has no name. A sannyasin once asked me, "Osho, if I drop all my beliefs, who will I be?" I said, "Exactly, who will you be? Find out." He said, "But I am afraid I will be nothing." I said, "Good, then you will be everything. Because nothing contains everything. Zero contains infinity." But he couldn't understand. Because understanding requires risking the known. This is why belief blocks truth. Not because belief is false, but because belief prevents direct contact. Belief stands between you and reality. Like a screen, you do not see what is. You see what you believe about what is. Let me give you an example. You meet a man. Immediately, your mind labels, he is Indian, he is rich, he is educated. These labels come from belief. Belief about what Indians are like, what rich people are like, what educated people are like. But you have not seen the man. You have seen your beliefs about the man. And believing feels like knowing, but believing is second-hand. You have borrowed the idea from parents, from society, from books. Truth is always first-hand. You cannot inherit truth. You cannot memorize truth. You cannot repeat truth. Truth happens only in direct seeing. And direct seeing requires silence. Belief is noisy. Belief is always talking, explaining, justifying, defending, interpreting. Have you watched your mind? It never stops. Even when you are looking at a tree, the mind is saying, "This is a mango tree. Last year it gave good fruit. I should water it." The mind is not seeing the tree, it is thinking about the tree. Silence frightens belief, because silence leaves no place to hide. In silence, belief cannot survive. So the mind fills every gap with thoughts, with opinions, with distractions. Modern man is the most distracted man in history. Why? Because modern man is the most afraid of silence. You wake up, immediately you turn on the phone, you drive, you turn on the radio, you sit alone, you turn on the TV. Why? What are you afraid of? You are afraid of meeting yourself. Because if you meet yourself in silence, all beliefs will be exposed as false. And that is terrifying. Even spiritual language becomes noise. Words like consciousness, awareness, enlightenment, God, all can become belief. People come to me and they use these words, but the words are empty. They have heard these words from me. They repeat these words, but there is no experience behind them. And belief dressed in spiritual language is the most difficult to dismantle because it feels sacred. But sacred belief is still belief, and belief still blocks truth. Truth does not need belief. Truth needs eyes. This is why listening is more important than believing. Listening does not accumulate. listening empties. When you truly listen, your beliefs pause, and in that pause, something extraordinary happens. For the first time, you are not interpreting, you are present. I am talking to you right now. But are you listening? Or are you agreeing, disagreeing, comparing with what you already know? If you are doing any of that, you are not listening. You are engaged with your beliefs. Real listening means your mind is empty. You are simply receiving. Like a mirror. The mirror doesn't judge, doesn't interpret. It simply reflects. Listening is not agreement. Listening is availability. And availability is the doorway. This is why awareness begins not with belief, but with attention. Attention to thought. Attention to reaction. Attention to fear. Attention to desire. Not to fix, not to judge, only to see. Seeing is enough. Seeing dissolves belief without effort. Because belief cannot survive in light. Imagine you are walking at night and you see a rope on the path. In the darkness, you think it's a snake. Fear arises. Heart beats fast. You run. But then someone brings a lamp. In the light, you see it's just a rope. Did you have to do anything to remove the fear? No. The light was enough. Awareness is that light. Belief is the darkness in which ropes become snakes. This is why methods fail. Methods are belief-based. They promise future transformation. Do this practice for 10 years and you will become enlightened. But enlightenment is not in the future. It is now or never. Seeing transforms immediately, but seeing cannot be practiced. It happens when belief loosens its grip. People ask me, Osho, what should I do to become aware? I say, nothing. If you do something, you will become more unconscious, because doing comes from the mind, and the mind is the problem. They get confused. They say, but you teach meditation techniques. Yes, I teach techniques. But the technique is not to achieve awareness. The technique is to show you how much you are not aware. The technique is a device to expose your unconsciousness. And when you see your unconsciousness clearly, awareness happens by itself. You don't have to bring it. It is already there, hidden behind the clouds of belief. This is why truth cannot be taught, only pointed to. And this is why belief is the greatest obstacle, not ignorance, belief. Ignorance is innocent. Belief is arrogant. Ignorance says, I don't know. Belief says, I already know. And truth only comes to those who do not know. Have you noticed? Small children learn so fast. Why? Because they don't know. They are ignorant and they are happy to be ignorant. But as you grow older, learning stops. Why? Because you believe you know, and the belief blocks new understanding. So the first step toward truth is to realize you don't know. Socrates was declared the wisest man in Athens. You know what he said? I know only one thing, that I know nothing. This is wisdom. Belief is foolishness pretending to be wisdom. This is the doorway. This is where the prison begins to crack. Not through rebellion, not through rejection, but through seeing. And seeing begins with a single dangerous question. What if what I believe is blocking what is? That question is enough. If you allow it to remain unanswered, don't rush to answer it. Don't say, yes, my beliefs are blocking truth, so I will drop them. That becomes another belief. Just let the question sit inside you. Let it work like a seed planted in soil. And slowly, without your doing anything, belief will start loosening. Not because you are fighting it, but because you are seeing it. Belief does not stop at the individual. Belief spreads. Once belief takes root in the individual mind, society steps in to cultivate it. Society is not interested in your truth. Society is interested in your usefulness, and belief makes people useful. Belief gives structure. Belief creates predictability. Belief allows systems to function without awareness. A believing human being does not need to be watched. He watches himself. He polices his own thoughts. He corrects his own behavior. He feels guilt without anyone accusing him. This is the perfection of control. No chains are required. No guards are needed. Belief becomes the invisible authority. The greatest invention of society is not the wheel, not the computer. The greatest invention is guilt, because guilt makes you your own jailer. You don't need anybody to punish you. You punish yourself. And what creates guilt? Belief. You believe sex is sin. So when you feel sexual desire, guilt arises. You believe anger is bad. So when you feel angry, you hate yourself. You believe you should be perfect. So every mistake becomes a wound. Belief creates the prison. Guilt locks the door. From childhood, you are trained to listen, not in order to understand, but in order to accept. You are taught to listen politely. You are taught to listen obediently. You are taught to listen silently. But you are not taught how to listen intelligently. Intelligent listening is dangerous, because intelligent listening does not agree in advance. It listens without conclusion. But belief listens only to confirm itself. This is why people hear only what they already believe. 10 people can hear the same words, and 10 different beliefs will form. Not because the words are unclear, but because belief filters everything. I say something, and the Christian hears through Christian beliefs. The Hindu hears through Hindu beliefs. The communist hears through communist beliefs. Nobody hears me. They hear their own beliefs reflected back. Belief is not open. Belief is selective. It accepts what supports it. It rejects what threatens it. So belief does not reveal truth. It defends itself. And when belief becomes collective, it becomes culture. Culture is organized belief. Culture tells you what to value, what to chase. what to fear, what to hide. Every culture says this is good, that is bad, but different cultures say different things. In India, the cow is sacred. In America, the cow is a hamburger. So which is true? Both beliefs are cultural, neither is truth. Culture does not ask who you are, it tells you who to become. This is where individuality is replaced by personality. Personality is manufactured. Individuality is natural. Personality is the mask you learn to wear. Individuality is what you are before learning begins. A small child has individuality. He cries when he wants to cry, laughs when he wants to laugh. He is authentic. But society says, no, don't cry here, don't laugh there, be polite, be good, be respectable. Slowly, the child learns the mask. And the mask becomes so practiced that he forgets there was ever a face beneath it. Personality fits. Individuality disrupts. Personality is rewarded. Individuality is misunderstood. So society promotes personality. Be polite. Be productive. Be ambitious. Be successful. Be respectable. All of these are instructions, not truths. And belief makes them feel unquestionable. Soon you are no longer living. You are performing. You perform success. You perform happiness. You perform morality. You perform spirituality. And the performance becomes exhausting. I see it in people's eyes. So tired, so burdened, but still performing. Why? Because if you stop performing, you fear you will be rejected. But belief tells you the exhaustion is your fault. You are not doing enough. You are not good enough. You are not spiritual enough. You are not disciplined enough. Belief always blames the individual. It never questions the system. This is why belief survives centuries. And truth is always rare. Belief creates crowds. Truth creates solitude. Crowds feel safe. Solitude feels dangerous. So people choose crowds. They choose agreement over aloneness. But aloneness is not loneliness. Loneliness is the absence of others. Aloneness is the presence of yourself. When you are lonely, you are missing others. When you are alone, you are meeting yourself. And that meeting is the most important meeting in life. Belief keeps you from yourself. Because if you ever truly meet yourself, belief collapses. Society fears this meeting. A human being who has met himself is no longer programmable. He may still participate, but he does not belong. He moves freely, and freedom cannot be managed. This is why society replaces religion with distraction when religion weakens. When belief in God fades, belief in productivity takes its place. When belief in heaven disappears, belief in success replaces it. The form changes, the function remains. Before, belief promised salvation after death. Now, belief promises fulfillment in the future. But the future never arrives. The future is belief's favorite hiding place. Belief always lives in tomorrow. When I get the promotion, I will be happy. When I get married, I will be fulfilled. When I retire, I will be free. Tomorrow, 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 and tomorrow never comes. Because when tomorrow comes, it is today. And today, you are still postponing. Truth lives only now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. But now is difficult, because in now you cannot hide. In now you are exposed. In now all your beliefs become transparent. So the mind escapes into past or future. This is why belief creates speed, hurry, urgency, deadlines, goals. Speed keeps you from seeing. A fast-moving mind cannot observe itself. So society worships speed. Slow people are called lazy. Silent people are called empty. Still people are called unproductive. But speed is sedation. The faster you move, the less you feel. And belief thrives where feeling is dulled. This is why modern life is loud. Noise is protection against awareness. Music, screens, notifications, endless information. All of it prevents the most dangerous moment, stillness. Because in stillness, belief loosens. In stillness, the machinery becomes visible. And once seen, it cannot command. This is why meditation is misunderstood. Meditation is not belief. It is the absence of belief. It is not a technique. It is seeing without interference. But society cannot sell seeing. It can sell methods. It can sell promises. It can sell improvement. So meditation becomes another product. Buy this meditation cushion, download this app, take this course. In 21 days, you will be enlightened. Meditation has become a business, and the business depends on belief. Believe in this method, believe in this teacher, believe in this system, and belief re-enters through the back door. I am meditating. I am progressing. I am becoming aware. The ego survives again. Belief is clever. It can wear any costume. Religion, psychology, spirituality, self-help. New Age spirituality is the most sophisticated form of belief because it uses the language of awareness while keeping you unconscious. I am manifesting abundance. I am raising my vibration. I am aligning with the universe. Beautiful words. But the one who is saying these things, who is he? The ego. And the ego is the problem. Belief is not threatened by content. It is threatened only by awareness. Awareness does not argue with belief. It sees it, and seeing ends it. This is why belief blocks truth. Truth does not fight belief. Truth makes belief irrelevant. But society cannot allow irrelevance. Because irrelevance collapses authority. So belief is reinforced through reward and punishment. Be like this and you belong. Be different and you are excluded. And exclusion terrifies the conditioned mind. So belief remains intact. But beneath belief, something suffers. The human being was not meant to live as a copy. You were not born to imitate. You were born to express. Expression requires freedom. Freedom requires awareness. Awareness requires doubt. And doubt threatens belief. This is the tension at the heart of civilization. Truth wants to liberate. Belief wants to preserve. And preservation always wins unless awareness intervenes. This is why awakening is rare, not because it is difficult, but because it is unwanted. Awakening dissolves ambition. Awakening dissolves competition. Awakening dissolves hierarchy. A world of awakened individuals cannot be exploited. So belief is encouraged from cradle to grave. Belief blocks truth, not by force, but by comfort. It tells you, relax, you already know. And the moment you accept that sentence, intelligence dies. The most dangerous belief is the belief that you already understand. Understanding is alive. Belief is dead. And dead things cannot grow. This is why belief creates stagnation. Not externally, internally. Your body ages. Your mind repeats, and repetition feels safe. But safety is not life. Life is movement. Truth is movement. Belief freezes movement into doctrine, and doctrine replaces discovery. This is the social hypnosis, not imposed, inherited. And the moment you see it, something breaks. Not violently, silently. A gap appears between you and belief. And in that gap, individuality breathes. For the first time, you are not agreeing, you are listening. Not to authority, but to reality. When belief loosens its grip, something unfamiliar appears. Silence. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of presence. At first, this silence feels uncomfortable because belief was noise, and noise felt like company. Belief gave you a voice inside your head, a constant narrator, explaining, judging, planning, comparing. When belief weakens, that voice loses authority. It still speaks, but it is no longer obeyed. And this is the moment the mind fears most. Because belief was never the prison itself. Belief was the guard. When belief fades, the guard steps aside, and for the first time, you are alone with reality. This is not loneliness. Loneliness is the absence of others. This is aloneness, the presence of yourself without interference. Most people have never met themselves. They have met only their beliefs, their stories, their roles, their images. So when belief dissolves, the ego panics. It says, I am disappearing. It says, something is wrong. It says, do something, but nothing is wrong. What is disappearing is not you. What is disappearing is what you were never meant to be. The false center, the borrowed identity. the voice that said, "This is who you are." Without belief, there is no fixed center, and without a fixed center, suffering cannot accumulate. Pain may arise, emotion may pass, but suffering requires a story, and stories are belief-based. This is the great secret. Belief does not only block truth, belief creates suffering, because belief creates identity, and identity demands protection. Without identity, there is nothing to protect. And without protection, there is ease. This ease is not excitement, it is not pleasure, it is not achievement, it is lightness. You move through life without dragging yourself behind you. The past loses its grip, the future loses its pull. Time softens. You are no longer rushing toward meaning. Meaning becomes unnecessary. Life does not need meaning to be lived. Meaning is compensation for absence. When presence is total, meaning dissolves. This is why awakened beings appear simple, not because they know less, but because they carry less. Belief is weight. Every belief adds weight. Beliefs about yourself, beliefs about others, beliefs about the world, beliefs about how life should be. Awareness removes weight. It does not replace belief with better belief. It leaves nothing behind, and nothing is freedom. The mind equates nothing with emptiness, but emptiness is space, and space is what allows movement. A cup is useful because it is empty. A being is free because it is empty. When belief disappears, you do not become confused. You become available to what is happening now, not filtered, not interpreted, not judged, just met. This meeting changes everything. You begin to respond instead of react. Reaction belongs to belief. Response belongs to awareness. Reaction comes from memory. Response comes from presence. This is why conflict decreases without effort. You are no longer fighting old battles in new situations. You are no longer projecting the past onto the present. You see what is in front of you, not what you expect. And expectation is belief. When belief drops, expectation drops. Life stops disappointing you, not because life improves, but because you are no longer demanding. Demand creates frustration. Presence creates peace. This peace is not passive. It is alive. You still act. You still speak. You still decide. But action is no longer compulsive. You act because action is needed, not because you are afraid of stillness. The prisoner acts to escape. The free human acts to participate. Participation without attachment. This is the flavor of awakening, and it is deeply misunderstood. People think awakening means withdrawal. It does not. Withdrawal is reaction. Awakening is intimacy with life. So intimate that belief is unnecessary. Belief is distance. Belief stands between you and experience. Awareness removes the barrier. This is why love changes. Love based on belief is possession. Love based on awareness is presence. Possession says, "You complete me." Presence says, I am complete and I meet you. Belief says, I need you to be a certain way. Awareness says, I see you as you are. This changes relationships. They become lighter. No one is used to fill inner emptiness, because emptiness is no longer a problem. Emptiness becomes openness. This openness is what religions have called God. But God was turned into belief, and belief killed God. Truth does not need a name. When belief ends, you do not find God. You lose the need for God. And what remains is far more mysterious. Existence itself, breathing, hearing, seeing, feeling. Ordinary life becomes extraordinary, not because it changes, but because belief is gone. This is why awakening feels uncomfortable at first. It removes your furniture, the familiar mental furniture you leaned on. Beliefs were support beams. When they fall, you feel exposed. But exposure is not danger. Exposure is honesty. You are finally standing without armor, and armor was heavy. The mind will try one last trick. It will try to make awareness into identity. I am aware. I am awakened. I am different. This is the final belief. And it must be seen as well. Awareness is not something you have. Awareness is what remains when everything falls, drops. So even the idea of awakening must dissolve. Otherwise, belief rebuilds the prison with golden bars. This is why true teachers disappear. Not because they are done, but because they refuse to become belief. Truth does not want followers. It wants eyes. Eyes that see directly, without conclusion, without belief, without fear. This is the ultimate freedom. Not freedom of choice, freedom from compulsion. Not freedom to become something, freedom from becoming. You return to being, and being is enough. You no longer chase happiness. Happiness comes and goes. You no longer chase peace. Peace becomes the background. You live without agenda. And without agenda, life flows. This flow is what Tao meant, what Zen points to, what silence reveals. It cannot be believed, only lived. There is a famous Zen story. A student asked his master, "What is enlightenment?" The master said, "When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep." The student said, "But everyone does that." The master said, "No. When others eat, they think. When others sleep, they worry. They are never where they are." You see, enlightenment is not something special. It is something simple. So simple that the mind cannot grasp it. The mind wants complexity. The mind wants achievement. The mind wants drama. But truth is utterly ordinary. Eating when hungry, sleeping when tired, walking when walking, sitting when sitting, nothing added, nothing subtracted, just this, just now. But belief makes everything complicated. Belief says there must be a method, a path, a goal. Belief says you are not enough as you are. Belief says you must become something, And this becoming is the trap, because becoming never ends. You become successful, then you want more success. You become spiritual, then you want more spirituality. The game continues. Truth ends the game, not by winning, but by seeing that there was never any game to play. You were always whole. You were always complete. You were always enough. But belief convinced you otherwise, and you spent your whole life trying to fill a hole that never existed. Let me tell you about a woman who came to me. She had been searching for 40 years. She had traveled to India, Tibet, Japan. She had studied with many masters. She had practiced many techniques. She was exhausted. She said, "Osho, I have tried everything. Nothing works. What should I do?" I looked at her. I said, "Stop searching." She said, "But then how will I find truth?" I said, "Truth is not lost. You are. Stop searching and you will be found." She started crying, deep, deep crying. And in that crying, something released. She had been running for 40 years, running from herself. And the moment she stopped, she was home. Not because she arrived somewhere, but because she stopped living. This is the paradox. You are already what you are seeking, but belief tells you to seek, and seeking takes you away. The moment seeking stops, you realize there was never anywhere to go. You are already here. You have always been here. But belief kept you distracted. Belief kept you postponing. Tomorrow I will meditate. Next year I will be serious. In my next life I will be enlightened. No. Now or never. Truth has no tomorrow. Truth is available only in this moment, this very moment, not the next breath. This breath, not the next thought. This gap between thoughts, right here, right now. Are you present, or are you still thinking about what I just said, or planning what you will do after this? This is the test. Presence is the test, and presence is also the answer. When you are totally present, belief evaporates, because belief needs time. Belief needs past and future. Belief cannot exist in the now. In the now, there is only seeing, pure seeing. Without the seer, without interpretation, without judgment, just this, just life, just existence, expressing itself through you. And when this happens, you realize something shocking. You realize you never existed as a separate entity. You were always part of the whole. The wave, thinking it is separate from the ocean, that was the illusion. The wave is the ocean. You are existence, not a part of existence, not connected to existence. You are existence itself, pretending to be separate, playing hide and seek with itself. But belief created the separation. Belief said, "I am me, you are you, this is mine, that is yours." And separation created suffering, because separation is force. Separation is just an idea, a believed idea. And now, when belief drops, separation drops. And what remains? Love. Not romantic love, not emotional love, existential love. The love that has no object, the love that simply is. You are not loving someone, you are love itself. This love is not possessive, this love is not jealous, this love is not demanding. This love simply flows like a river toward the ocean, toward dissolution, toward oneness. And in that oneness, all questions dissolve. The question of God, the question of meaning, the question of purpose, all questions arise from separation, from the belief that I am separate from existence. But when the I dissolves, who is there to ask? There is a beautiful Sufi saying, I searched for God and found only myself. I searched for myself and found only God. Do you see? The seeker is the sought, the lover is the beloved, the observer is the observed. But belief creates the division. Belief says, I am here, God is there. And then you spend your whole life trying to reach there, not realizing that there is here. God is not somewhere else. God is this very moment, this very breath, this very aliveness. But to see this, belief must go, not through rejection, not through denial, but through understanding. When you understand belief, when you see how it operates, when you see how it was installed, when you see how it controls you, it loses power. Not because you fought it, but because you saw it, and what is seen clearly cannot continue unconsciously. This is the beauty of awareness. It dissolves without effort. So if belief is blocking your truth, do not replace belief. Do not fight belief. See it, watch it arise. Watch it demand certainty. Watch it seek safety. Watch it defend itself. And in watching, something miraculous happens. The watcher and the watched become one. There is no separate you watching belief. There is only watching pure awareness. And in that pure awareness, belief cannot survive. It needs a believer. And when the believer disappears, belief disappears. What remains? Nothing and everything. The nothing that contains everything. The emptiness that is fullness. The silence that is the source of all sound. This is what the mystics have been pointing to for thousands of years, but they could only point. They could not give it to you. Because truth cannot be transferred. Truth can only be discovered by you, in you, as you. So I am not here to give you truth. I am here to take away your beliefs. And when all beliefs are gone, truth reveals itself not as something new, but as something that was always there, hidden behind the clouds. And now the clouds are gone and the sky is clear, and you see, finally, you see, not with eyes, but with your whole being. And that seeing is liberation, that seeing is freedom, that seeing is truth. And that truth will never block anything, because that truth is everything.